Okay, so let's get started. Great. We are going to be talking about fluency with multiplication and division. And for you guys who don't know me, I'm Bonnie Davenport, and I'm the regional consultant here in Western Kentucky. And this is how you can reach me via email. And if I could ever be of any assistance to you, please don't hesitate to ask. The Kentucky Center for Math, here's just some statistics that go along with our center. I know a lot of you are familiar with our center, but if not, these are kind of the things that we do. We are a statewide leader in facilitating professional learning experiences for math and giving teachers and MITs the tools they need to be the leaders of Kentucky in mathematics. Okay. And our website. If you haven't been to our website, you definitely need to take a look at it. It has lots of professional learning. We do different professional learnings throughout the year, and you can go there and has a list of all the different things that we offer and descriptions of those. And then we have our resources, and there are countless games on there that you can download in our KMP section. We have information for parents, we have information for teachers. If you want to use a math book, a literature book in your teaching, we have all kinds of examples of how to use literature when you are teaching math. And then of course, when it comes time for our annual conference, you can see those information there. And then check us out if you want to know who is in the Kentucky Center for Math or who is around you in your region. You can check us out and see who is a part of the KCM. And today's agenda, we're going to be looking at some standards for multiplication and division. We're going to be looking at the research behind that. And then within that research, developing fluency, we're going to be looking at quick looks and how that supports developing fluency, and math stories, giving that visualization and context to fluency, and then of course our games that we're going to be able to download and take with us. Okay, so our first standard that we're going to be looking at is third grade operations and algebraic thinking. Is fluently multiply and divide within 100 using strategies, and that's big and bold because that's kind of our topic for today, is how to use strategies to develop that fluency, such as the relationship between multiplication and division or the properties of operations. Okay, so this particular visual comes from the book, and I'll show you the book here. Math Fact Fluency by Jenny Bay Williams, and she is with the University of Louisville. And you might have seen this visual in different orientations in the Common Core state standards or in different research-based articles. And it starts with, what exactly is procedural fluency? Because when a lot of people think of fluency, they just think fast. And if you Google fluency, you're going to get 1,000 different resources that are time tests and those kind of things saying that they're fluency, but they're not really, because fluency has to do with being accurate, efficient, flexible, and appropriate strategy selection. So accuracy we hit pretty well, and that's just the correct answer. And that really, when we do time tests, that's all we can pretty much assess is, are they getting the answer right? And that's just one tiny part of fluency. And so the next part is efficiency, and that's time needed to solve is reasonable, and that they are able to select a strategy that fits the numbers in the problem. They're not just using a strategy, oh, this is the strategy we're learning today, so we're going to use that strategy. They're able to think about, what fits this particular problem, and then being flexible with it. They can take all those strategies they've learned and they can apply them to new problems, and some strategies are adapted to better fit specific problems. So no matter how efficient and how fast a student is, if we only give them one strategy, one way to solve a problem, then we're kind of robbing them of being truly procedurally fluent and being efficient and flexible with operations. And I know a lot of you probably use this within your school districts, that definition of what procedural fluency is. Okay, so let's go to our next slide, which is the 5 fundamentals of fact fluency. And mastery must focus on fluency, thinking about it in the context that we were just talking about, how you have to be flexible and efficient and have strategies. So if we want to get kids to mastery, we have to equip them with different kinds of strategies. And then that fluency is going to develop in 3 different phases. Phase 1, counting, where students are going to count with objects or they may count mentally. Some kids get really good at skip counting and use that when they're multiplying, but we don't want to leave kids there. We want to encourage them to develop more efficient strategies for developing mastery. And then phase 2, it sometimes gets glossed over and skipped, is deriving and using those reasoning strategies based on the known facts, the facts that are a little easier to learn, and using those to develop some strategies. And then phase 3 is the mastery phase, where they're efficiently producing those answers, which we want to get them to, but we can't leave out the strategy development. And then 3, knowing the foundational facts must precede learning the derived facts. And that's just giving them the tools that they need to develop strategies. We have to develop that foundational facts, and we'll look at that in the next slide. Time tests do not necessarily assess fluency. We talked a lot about that this morning when we were doing our book study about time tests and how they just, at their best, assess one part of fluency, which is accuracy. We don't know if kids are flexible. We don't know if they can pick an appropriate strategy just by doing time tests. And then students need substantial and enjoyable practice. We can't just do fluency in chapter 2 for 6 weeks. It's ongoing and should be embedded in our curriculum throughout. Okay, and so in the book by Jenny Bay Williams, Math Fact Fluency, she uses this progression. And you could think about the multiplication progression also as the division progression, because they're just the inverse of each other. So you're learning both operations at the same time. And the research says to start with that foundational fact of sets. You may have, like I did when I was in school, learned my facts, 0s, 1s, 2s, 3s. But the research says that that's probably not the optimal way for students to learn their facts. Just think about the 10s, how easy they are, and if you do them in that sequence, well, you're never, ever going to get to the 10s if they're struggling with the ones in the foundational fact sets. So kids are pretty familiar with 2s because that's just their double facts. And if you can get them to thinking about 6 times 2 as 6 and 6, well, they get that pretty quick. And then they've had countless time with place value probably up to this point. So the 10s are pretty easy. And 5s, they've learned how to skip count, but we don't want to leave them in skip counting. We kind of want to move that 5s to seeing those groups of 10s. And then I thought it was interesting that the next set was the 1s and the 0s, because kids can get confused on those, and it doesn't really make sense unless we put it into context for them. Like 1 pack of gum with 5 sticks in it is 5, or 3 boxes with 0 cereal in it is 0. So we have to really kind of give them a contextual element to learning those different kinds of facts. And then the squares, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, comes in within that continuum. And then you see the derived fact strategies down below. And that's just using the foundational fact sets, which you have to get really, really good with, and use those when you are doing the derived fact strategies. I know that a lot of our school districts probably already use this progression, so I'm just kind of curious. And we're going to stop right here for just a second, and I just want to kind of hear from you. Does this make sense to you? Is this something that your district is currently doing? So we'll just stop, and I'll ask that anyone that has experience with this just to share. Or if this is brand new to you and you want to tell me that, that's awesome.
This is Dee. I've unmuted because in the chat, some folks have typed some things in about they use the timed multiplication tests because their district uses the data and that they don't love that, but that's the reason that they're still giving them.
Right. It's difficult when it's coming from the top down that we have to do those time things. And there are some different ways that you can use the information from the time test and do time tests a little differently to kind of assess if they're flexible or not. Anyone else use this progression in their districts? Okay, well, we will move right along. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is quick looks, and Lisa Riggs used these in her very first session. And if you haven't seen all the other sessions, even though they're about addition and subtraction, and you may not teach those lower grades, I encourage you to go back and look at those because there's lots and lots of things with the games and with what was said that is applicable to multiplication as well. So these math flips are also able to be used with multiplication. And instead of just the regular flashcards that your parents may be asking for or that are familiar to them, these math flips, you are looking at one side of the card and you're going to talk about how many, what do you see, how do you know, and then the back isn't the answer, it's a related math fact that's going to build on the one on the front. So we're going to watch a little clip about how to use math flips, and cross your fingers, I hope that works. Can you see that website? Thumbs up if you can see the website there. Yay, all right. Okay, take that off there. Oops. Okay, so are we back to my PowerPoint? Is that good? All right. So I'm going to show you a few of the math flips that I printed out. It was really easy to print them out.
Folks, can you hear Bonnie talking now?
Can you not hear me?
Okay, yes, the sound was very, very slight on the video, but we can hear you now. That's okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, so.
Bonnie, will we have
Yes.
access to that video? We will, right? In your PowerPoint, that we could go back and look at it later?
Yes, I think that that's all connected, is it not?
It absolutely is. There,
Yes.
the nice thing about our items is that every link is hot linked, even in the PDF.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me stop that. Yep. So sorry, that messed right up. Okay. Let's see if that works. Oh no. As many times as I've tried this, of course it's gonna mess up now. All right. The spotlight your video for one. Okay, hold on one second. I'm gonna close all that out. I apologize. Oh, here we go. I really did practice this like 10,000 times. Of course it's gonna mess up now.
Bonnie, I can see,
You can see my camera?
you. I can actually see it as if it is you. So if you'll just stop screen share.
Oh, there we go. Can you see that now?
I can see you, but if you'll stop screen share, just
Stop screen
for
share.
the moment, then we'll see it on the bigger screen, I think. Let's try
Like
that.
that? Oh, thank goodness. Okay. So sorry about that. All right. So for the flips there, and you can see that on side A, we have five sets of 2 over here and 3 sets of 2. So how many do you see? Somebody can unmute and tell me that.
I'm going to say 8 sets.
16.
8 sets of 2 or 16. Very good. Thank you so much. So if we have 8 sets of 2 and that gave us 16, and then you flip it over to the other side, you'll see that there are 2 sets of 8. And of course, you'll ask the kid what they see. And how can you use 8 sets of 2 to help you figure out 2 sets of 8? And anybody can jump in there.
Getting lots of commutative property type.
Community property, yeah. Everybody's afraid to talk. You have to unmute and talk for me. Okay, so 2 sets of 8 relates to 8 sets of 2, and that's of course, the commutative property. So as you go through, you can see these different cards are like that, and here's 6 groups of 2 or 2 groups of 6. So they're not your typical flashcards. They are flashcards that the relationship is on the front and the back. So this is the closest I think you can get to a math talk. They're at home and using these flip cards, and they also have them on PowerPoint on their website as well. So that's the first way that we're going to support fluency is with our quick looks. And instead of going back to my PowerPoint, I'm just going to keep going with the games on the camera because I'm afraid to log off and log back on. So I'm going to keep going with that part. The next part is story problems. And so we want to encourage students to have the context to be able to use story problems to have context for their fluency. And of course, it's reversed, which it hasn't been until today. So I'm not sure why it's reversed on your screen.
I can see it fine.
I was gonna
You
say
see
it's
it fine?
reversed, Bonnie. It just looks reversed to you. You're good.
It's messing with me today, so all right. As long as you guys can see it. So basically what this is you have a set of word problems, and these are all available to you. Ooh, my fingernails. Can't get the nails done, so sorry. You have these word problems, and you're going to have a set of representations. So you just kind of put the representations around the card. For you. And then you flip your word problem over, and it says 20 butterflies rest on a bush. That is 4 times as much than rest on the tree. How many rest on the tree? And so the student at that point would say, okay, how many different representations can I find? And I just made a selection here, but there's many, many more representations that they'll be looking at. So they're going to be thinking, okay, 20 butterflies in a bush, that's 4 times as many. So I think this one might work because I'm thinking of my related division fact of how many 4s are going to be in 20. So I could take that one. And here is the related division fact of 20 divided by 4 is going to give me how many are resting in the tree. So now I have 2 representations, and even this repeated addition one works for this problem. So now I have 3 different representations, and those go in my pile, and I don't see any others that would work. So now it's my partner's turn, and they're going to flip over a card, and it says twice as many flies live in the trash can than live in the old tire. 5 flies live on the old tire. How many live in the trash can? So you can see that they might select 2 times 5 because twice as many flies live in the trash can than live in the old tire. 5 flies live in there, yeah, that one. And then the related division fact, because that's really how best practice for learning multiplication and division is seeing those inverse relationships and working with them there together. So that would be my partners. And at the end, you're going to count up how many representations partner A was able to find versus partner B, and kind of have that who won based on that. Any questions on that game before I move on to my next one? Nope. Okay, great. So this is available on our KMP website, and there are 3 different levels, and when I go back to my PowerPoint, I'll show you that. Each level builds on the one before it so that you can differentiate for your kids based on what they need, what group they need to be working with. So there's that one. And then the games. Fix Factor War is one of the games that we're going to be looking at. And it's just with playing cards. And so depending on what factor your group is working with, so if let's say we're working on our 4s. So a 4, you're going to split the deck in half with your friend. Make sure you can see that. So our focus factor is 4. So at the same time, we're going to turn up one card and determine the product, sorry. All right, so if we're going to do 4s, and I'm going to say, okay, 2 times 4 is 8. And I know that because I know that 4 and 4 is 8. Or I know that 3 times 4 is 12 because I know 4 and 4 and 4 is 12. And if you're working on doubling, some higher numbers would work there for that one. And it's kind of like war a little bit, but you're really focusing on the strategy in that one. Okay, so that's Fix Factor War, which is also going to be available to you. Any questions on that one? All right, Rectangle Fit is a fun game where you have 2 dice and a game board. Put the game board there. And you're going to roll the dice. And I rolled a 2 and a 3. So I get to, anywhere on my game board, put a 2 by 3. And this builds their relationships to erase. And so then my partner is going to row, and they have a 4x6. And they can decide where they want to put that anywhere on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to do a 4x6 here. And you're going to keep rolling until you can't fit any more products on your game board. Questions on that one? All right, so that's rectangle fit game board. And then we have the game trios, and you're going to play that with a deck of cards, and you're going to give each player a marker and take turns turning a card. And then on your turn, you're going to multiply your number by your factor and place on your counter. So you can have game boards of 2s, you can have game boards for 5s, whatever factor it is that you are working on. So let's say I have my deck here, and I'm going to flip, and I have a 3. So I know that 3 times 5 is 15, and so I'm going to put my marker on 15. And that is also a great way to be doing derived division facts, because you're thinking, okay, well, what times 5 is going to get me 15? What do I need to roll to get my 3 in a row? And so what you're trying to do is to get trios. So for every 3 in a row you get a point. So whoever gets the most trios wins. And you can do that with any factor. Okay. And then the last game I'm going to do. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so the last game is softball hits. And I think this one is really fun. You can, you're going to get 3 dice, and you're going to roll 3 dice. Oh, we'll do it again since it was all triple T. All right, so our objective is to go in order, getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm kind of missing my baseball, so I really kind of like this game. So the point is to get these different, to go as far as you can with these 3 dice. So I want to get a 1. So I can think of 2 times 2 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. So I got my, I got my 1, so I can write my equation there. And I did 2 times 2 minus, what did I do? 2 times 2. Oh, and then I did 5 minus 2 times 2. Sorry. All right. So, oh, and then, sorry. You're going to try to get as many as you can with that row. So I'm going to try to get a 2 now. So I'm going to think of a way I could get a 2. Let's see. If anybody can see a way for me to get a 2 using addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, you let me know. Let's see, 10 minus 10, I can get a 5. Okay, so I don't see a way I could get a 2, so it would be my partner's turn. And they would roll, and they would try to get as far along the bases as they can. But when it's my turn again, I don't have to start with 1, I can start with 2. I'm trying to find a way to get 2. Okay, does that game make sense to everybody? Any questions on that game?
Love it.
That game's
I
long.
love
Sorry.
it.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I love it, and I think the kids will love it as well.
I know, we get pretty heated playing that one. It's kind of fun to figure out how far you can get with all the different ones. So I'm glad you like that one. That one's called Softball Hits, and that will be in your packet as well. So it helps them think outside the box and to see the relationship between all the different operations. Okay, so I'm going to try to go back to my PowerPoint there.
Hey,
But
Bonnie,
Sorry.
can you go out of order?
Go out of order.
I can go out of order. What is?
you
Yes.
can
Oh, can you go out of order? I was like, what? can you go out of order? No, you're supposed to go in order. That's the
Okay.
name of the game. But I say with any game, you can make it whatever rules you want to. But
Okay.
the original rule is to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to try to go back to my PowerPoint and hopefully that will work. Did it work? No, still seeing that.
We see your PowerPoint.
Yeah, we see your PowerPoint. You're perfect.
Great. All right. Wonderful, because I'm still seeing my other thing. So that's great. All right, so we talked about the math list. Oh, and now it went to the thing. All right. Okay. And then there is the different word problem game that I showed you, and that comes off of our KNP site, and there's the 3 different levels I was talking to you about. And then that's just a list of the games that we went over today, and you have a copy of all of those games in your packet that you're receiving today or that you can go download. And then just talking really quick about virtual manipulatives. If your parents don't have dice at home or number generators, there's a great website that they can use, Didax, to get virtual manipulatives. And these are all hyperlinked in your document too if you need to go back and look. And then Toy Theater has every imaginable manipulative you could ever want to use. So you could go back onto Toy Theater if your parents need a spinner or dice or number line. You can go onto that website. And then just some at-home math resources. Of course, Greenbox is offering a free 90-day trial. And then multiplication.com has some really great games, and these are all hyperlinked in your document. And Math Playground also has some great math multiplication and division games that you can look at. Okay, so don't forget to visit our website, and this is where you'll be able to download all of the different virtual meetings that we've had. If you just go to KentuckyMathematics.org, scroll down a little bit, and it's KCM Goes Virtual. And we have one more with Belle tomorrow with some more advanced multiplication and division make and takes. But then again, you can go back and look at all of these different ones if you missed one. And there I am again. If you ever have questions or need to contact me, or if I can help you anyway, please make sure to reach out to me. And KCM is here to support you. We're here for our Kentucky educators, and you guys are the leaders in education with us, so we are better together. And if you have any needs, make sure that you feel free to reach out to us.
So we always thank you for joining us today. And one of the ways that I like to end is to ask you guys to give Bonnie some shout outs. What are some things that you loved about what Bonnie did today? You can either put it in the chat, or I'd actually love for you to unmute your mic and let her hear from you.
I love those math flips and letting kids talk about their different strategies and seeing the connections with the commutative property.
I love those too.
The math flips were great, and I also like the resources that you put at the end for the virtual dice and everything that parents could use at home, because I'm sure a lot of my kids will not have access to be able to print things out or even have tools to use at home, so it'll be great.
Great.
I like the word problems with the matching equations. I thought that was really good.
Wonderful. Cool.
And to be reminded, Bonnie got those word problems out of our Kentucky Numeracy project. That's located there on our website. If you go to the bottom, KNP, we have out there on our social media, the password, the username and password information. It's there for everybody to be able to get into. I think you'll find a plethora of games and resources that you can use to support your classroom teachers and to support those things that you're doing with your students as we're out of school now during this unprecedented time. Bonnie, from me to you, what a beautiful presentation. We thank you so much for the good information that you presented. We are up for one more day tomorrow for elementary. Next week, we do want to tell you that we've kind of selected this time slot. So next week is some middle school stuff. I do want to encourage our math interventionists and all those that are just good math, just really interested in math. We have some middle school math going on next week, but I'm telling you, our fifth grade students, our fourth and fifth grade students across the state of Kentucky are doing a lot of enrichment and a lot of thinking beyond. And as a practitioner, I encourage you to log in to this Higher Mathematics. Today, I was in a high school session with Leah. I'm a trained middle school teacher, and Leah reminded me of exponential functions, and it was so fun. This was information that I was reminded of. And so we hope that you'll join us next week also for our middle school sessions. And then we've got continue to have special things on the horizon as we're out. You can always count on KCM. Thank you so much for joining us today. See ya.